everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their sun in the 9th house in their natal chart. To me, the sun is everything, but it's not everything because we have a moon sign, we have our rising sign, but to me, all of that is window dressing. We are our sun signs, or we should aspire to become them. If we want this lifetime, this incarnation, to be as successful as possible. Because there was a reason that we chose to have a certain sun sign, or if it was chosen for us, whatever you want to believe, I believe we chose it. And we want to express something to the world through that sun sign. Because really, there is that masculine quality to the sun. That is, and the masculine quality, and that's an energy, it doesn't have anything to do with gender, really projects itself out into the world. And so our goals, if you want to say our career goals, our personality traits that are very obvious to other people, these, to me, become more and more evident as we get older, as we come into ourselves. And I can go into a whole spiel about that. I'm not going to, about the moon and the rising sign and the influences. I just wanted to state that. And yes, you do have other parts to you. But I feel like the sun is the center of it all. And the 9th house is ruled by Sagittarius in the universal chart. And so those Sagittarian qualities will be present within you no matter what your sun sign is. So you can be a Capricorn and you're going to be a bright and sparkly Capricorn compared to, maybe another type of Capricorn, maybe who has their sun in the 2nd house and is more about money and more, that can tend to be more low key. A person that has their sun in the 9th house is an optimistic person. Now, I did not, I looked this up. There were 2 sites that I have been sourcing material from, codexastrology.com and theastrologyplace.com. Highly recommend them to you if you are interested in learning more about what each placement means. But I didn't see anything about that aspect, and I think that's an important one because the 9th house is ruled by Jupiter. I'm talking about in the universal chart. So that those qualities that we think of with Jupiter, including being lucky, can be present with somebody who has a sun in the 9th house, especially since the sun is such a warming, positive influence in and of itself. So you put the 2 together, you get a lot of good stuff. The 9th house is the house of expansion. So taking it from the physical point of view, we would talk about the world traveler. Now, while I was lying here, before I pressed record, I was just lying down thinking about what I was going to do, compiling this list. And I thought about, is everybody a world traveler? I don't know. What if you have Saturn in the 9th house? You may be delayed with that travel. Maybe you do it eventually. Maybe you're one of those people that, for whatever reason, can't afford to travel, are afraid to travel, and then all of a sudden you get, maybe when you're retired or you're just later on in life, you just are traveling like crazy. And it took that delayed, you had to delay that gratification for a while. Saturn can mean that something is delayed, but it doesn't mean that you won't eventually get there. You will, but it might take you a lot longer than the average person to do the same thing. But who cares, you may enjoy it more. You may appreciate it more. But even, so I'm thinking about what could keep somebody from actually doing, I'm thinking specifically of traveling. And I thought, well, okay, whatever might happen. But you might you might be born in a small town, and just by moving to a big city, that is something that really appeals to you because it's that idea of expansion. And that is such a strong theme. And for someone like myself who grew up in the middle, in a kind of like an urban type of a suburb, I always think, gosh, why would you want to go into a city when you have this beautiful nature around you? But that is how the person feels. They cannot stand that sense of limitation. And this is going to be your state of consciousness. You're going to be a broad-minded person. But I want to make a very clear distinction between political correctness and being broad-minded. Because I think there's a lot of political correctness going on, but I don't think there's that much broad-mindedness. And I wasn't even thinking of the fullest extent of it, but people tend to think of political ideology, and it has nothing to do with that. It simply has to do with wanting to understand people who are different than you better. And this could include political ideology. So if you're somebody who prides yourself on being very liberal, you would be fascinated to learn why people choose to be conservative, and not in a condescending way, in a really sincerely interested way. Political correctness is different, and that's just being very careful about using language, but not necessarily practicing tolerance across the board. Tolerance has to go in all directions, and a person with the sun in the ninth house probably understands this better than most. And you may be very adventurous, if only in your mind, but you're not going to be narrow-minded. I mean, yeah, there's a possibility that if your Mercury is in a certain sign, like a fixed sign, especially, well, I don't want to single anybody out, but there might be examples where this may not fall into place 100%. But in general, there would be that sense of appreciation of culture, foreign lands. And, I'm thinking of this thing that somebody told me about these Americans that went to a foreign country and they ordered hamburgers for their meals. Somebody that I know who went in a travel group where you're traveling with others that you don't know. And, this person couldn't believe that they ordered food that they could have every day instead of trying the food of that country's culture. And by the way, this is not to diss Americans. I am American, and I don't like it when people diss Americans, but it was just, saying that they were from the United States because, hamburgers are such a big thing. This could happen to any, person from any country. They could have that same mentality, I'm going to just do things my own way. I'm going to just be in my own little bubble. I'm not going to try anything new. And that kind of it's almost like sometimes it almost seems like there's a fear behind it, trying new foods. I do. I sense that people are afraid because I sometimes I read a comment and they go, well, what does it taste like? Like something bad's going to happen to them if they taste something that they've never tasted before. So this idea of really expanding who you are in all ways is so prevalent with you. Again, because the sun is very influential. So it's at the core of our being in this lifetime, of course. So that can be part of, when you travel, you're not just going to go to some beach and drink drinks with little umbrellas in them. You really want to actually get among the people. You want to absorb the energy of that environment. But also from the intellectual point of view, because this ninth house is the house of the university level education. So this is also considered abstract knowledge because it's the God house. But I would say higher learning. Now, I'm not going to get into a diatribe about, the modern university. But I will say that higher learning to me is not simply being able to regurgitate what other people have said because they have a bunch of letters after their name. It's about learning to think for yourself. And that, to me, was supposed to be the number one purpose of college, to think for yourself. So, and that, again, that has a connection to philosophy, because you integrate all of this so-called sophisticated knowledge into your worldview, your life's philosophy, to create the life that works for you, the framework wherein to operate from. And some people do not approach college in the same way, but I think that for you, it's not just about getting that piece of paper. You really feel that it enriches you because it expands you. You're going to have a philosophical demeanor no matter what in life. Even if you never go to college, you may be self-taught. To me, that you may check out books from the library and be very sophisticated in your reading matter. By the way, I want to just make a brief point of that. Now, see, here's the person with the sun in Sagittarius, and then having Mars in the ninth house, being very strident about this for all of you with the sun in the ninth house, is that even if for some reason you don't get to go to college, because you probably really identify with your level of education, but you can be self-taught and be better educated than some of those people that come out with degrees. You know why? Because it's all what you do with it. If you're somebody, and I don't mean, with a career. There are people who have college degrees who never pick up a book, or rarely pick up a book. So being, college educated doesn't mean that you live a life of the mind where you are engaging intellectually with life at a sophisticated level. So I think that you guys will tend to be intellectuals, no matter what your sun sign is. And a sign like Taurus, which I always call a meat and potato sign, very, straightforward, first earth sign, very fresh, very down to earth, but very like what you see is what you get. Those types of people will have more complexity to them because of this, and a more intellectual bent. A person who is a sun sign in Capricorn, as I had mentioned, or a Scorpio, who may have more of a, I don't want to say a dour demeanor, but either one that is, melancholic, more prone to cynicism and suspicion, will have more of a puppy dog demeanor, more of an optimistic outlook, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed type of a deal. And this is because of that Jupiter influence, which is very like, you know what, I'm down today, but I'll be up tomorrow, glass half full type of mentality and demeanor. And, it also extends to how you view other people. You can see the best in them or the worst. That's why I brought up those two signs, Scorpio and Capricorn, because I think they trend towards cynicism. And that means also with other people, like questioning their motives. They must want something. They're obviously being phony, and
I know that what they're really like putting on an act right now and stuff like that. No, you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. This will also make you more generous, as Jupiter is full of generosity. Do you want me to call out all the cheapskates amongst you? No, I'm not going to do that. It's fun though. Okay, what else? You may have a parent who is from another country. I think this was from Codex. I wasn't quite sure where they were going with that, why they're saying a parent. I mean, I know that the son represents the father, but perhaps they just said parent in case the mother is the more dominant parent, I guess. You may have been born in another country, but then you came to live where you are right now. Don't really understand the reasoning for that. One of the reasons that, I mean, I could have wung this without having gone online and compiled the list. But sometimes they come up with these things that I would have never thought of. And I'm fascinated by that. I confess, I don't know why this means you would be born in another country, unless they're just talking about that sense of expansion that you could, really cover a lot of territory in your childhood even. Now this was very interesting. You could go to live in a faraway country, especially, and I'm not talking about like just visiting, but I mean to live there permanently if slow-moving planets are forming an angle to the sun. Okay, I don't know if they said I think they said favorable angle to the sun. Now, what that got me to thinking is that there are two signs that I would, kind of hone in on. One is Capricorn, because, and actually all the earth signs, because of the Pluto influence. And by extension, maybe the water signs, which form sextiles. Of course, you have to check for you specifically, because depending on what your degree is, this may not be the case in a precise way. But especially with Capricorns, because you have a conjunction with Pluto, and if your sun is in conjunction with Pluto in the 9th, that is deep transformation that is happening in this area of foreign travel. Of course, it could happen in a spiritual sort of way too, which wouldn't have to do anything with outward travel. But that could, I'm just like trying to figure out which signs would be probably the most affected by this. And also, a trine, if you're Taurus, the reason I specified Taurus is because you already have Uranus in your sign, and that is changing you as well, but in a different sort of a way. I feel like in some ways the Uranian conjunction is more of a Kundalini thing, a spiritual upgrade in a sense, energetic upgrade, let's put it that way. And so it can manifest, I guess, even in your appearance, even in your behaviors. But to me, the Pluto thing is really about what is going on with you. I mean, Pluto is a karmic planet, so I feel like it's kind of, there's a certain timing to it all where you are supposed to transform your life, and that could involve moving from your country of origin, and this can shift everything because it's really a teardown if you think about it, especially if you live there permanently, where you're letting go of your past. It's like you're burning your past. So very interesting. And new religion from what you were born with, so changing your religion. I'm not talking about those aspects to the sun anymore, just saying natal sun in the ninth. Your careers can involve the law. There's a legal connection to the ninth house. I think that the difference between the ninth and the seventh house is the seventh house is the law too. But I think the seventh house is actual lawsuits and courtrooms, and the ninth house is the law itself. Just like it's spiritual matters, you have the spiritual laws, the doctrines, and then you have the legal doctrines. So the parameters of the law, the written law, that we then take and interpret in our own way. And religion, spirituality, writing, especially about philosophical issues. And I added life coach because I think that, people with the sun in the ninth can be very inspirational. And I actually think if you're an earth sign, especially like Virgo or Capricorn, that you can help people very practically, but spiritually at the same time, which is like the best of both worlds. Because we live in this world. If the information is too abstract, it's ungrounded, and it can't be easily applied to everyday life. I am of the belief that we have to have practical spirituality. And yes, I do have a lot of earth in my chart, but I think that for those of you who are earth signs who have the sun in the ninth, that this is really a great combination for somebody who is trying to help people at a basic level. And because sometimes that ninth house wisdom can be a little bit out there, can be a little bit hard to necessarily make practical use of. And a life coach is very inspirational, so that positivity is what you're really trying to transfer to others when you speak. And I wrote, like the absent-minded professor, this person could be wrapped up in abstract knowledge versus practical affairs. That kind of goes along with that, but I was reading in one of these sites, I think it was, I don't know which one it was. It might have been the Astrology place, where they were talking about the information that one is gathering is of an abstract nature. I forgot how they put it, but basically that they may not take care of their practical matters, including taking care of their body, and because they're so into that part, that abstract knowledge. And so I said, like the absent-minded professor, because this is the house of the professor. But you may be quite disengaged from your everyday life, and you need to have a bit of balance. So, you need to know how to do certain practical things. It's funny, I was just thinking of Einstein. There was a story that Einstein, he was checking out a book from the library, and he had received a $10,000 check. And I think this was back in the 50s or something, like many, I don't even know. It could have been earlier than that. But he had gotten, can you imagine $10,000 in the 50s or earlier than that, how much money that was? And he just stuck it in his library book and returned the book. And he was very absent-minded. And that just goes to show you can be brilliant and be absent-minded. But my God, a $10,000 check, even now, how could you forget something like that? He just was not connected to the material realm. And by the way, Einstein was a Pisces with a moon in Sagittarius. It'd be interesting to know if his sun was in the ninth house. But the point being that that's just, to me, that's crazy, But there you go. You can be like a genius and do something like that. So the point is that you have to keep balance. Don't be so off in your own, like latest adventure in your mind that you forget to take out the garbage. Okay, that's what I have for you. If you would like a private reading, the link to my website is below. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.